and I'm so glad to be here and so honored to be amongst such company. And so, piggybacking a little bit on what Kashana said, we thought we would aim to destigmatize our overall views of mental wellness and normalizing conversations about having inner worlds, and that the premise is our healthy personality consists of many different selves, different alter egos, and then specifically for this series that we would literally have topics that are maybe on the edge of taboo, or where there are certain expectations that here we want to talk about them, like expectations that you actually want or maybe want to discard. And so today we focus on men's mental wellness as we arrive in our post-pandemic world. And happily, we're more willing to embrace that every month really is Mental Health Month. And so the overall concept is men's health misunderstood? Are men feeling forced to hide and maybe leading with traditional bulletproof inner alter egos, and maybe are struggling silently or alone in isolation? And so we have the tools, we've arrived, but today we'll do some unpacking. And if everyone could go around and just introduce them a little bit, we'll jump into the first question. And you get to pick in this group. So I'm picking Tyrone, and you can pick the next one.
Okay, right on. I'm Tyrone Russell. I am in Columbus, Ohio, and I've been teaching Bikram yoga since 2004. So however many years that is. And how about Max?
Yeah, so I'm currently based in Spain. My name is Max Weigand, and I'm a positive psychologist and just super fascinated with mental health, therefore, and really with how people can take their happiness and their well-being to the next level. And pick AJ.
Thanks, Max. Hey, everyone. My name is AJ. I'm based in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. I'm the host and founder of a podcast called My 7 Chakras. I've been doing that for the last 5 years. We explore a variety of topics, including yoga, Ayurveda, Tantra, meditation, mindfulness. And I've had the wonderful Bridget on my show as well. And we've crossed 5 million downloads recently. I'm also a certified breathwork instructor. So I help people use their breathing as a bridge to get in touch with their inner self and explore their different selves, so to speak. Where I'm really, really excited to be part of this wonderful panel discussion. So thank you.
Welcome, welcome. And Kashana, did you want to say a little bit about yourself before we jump into the first question?
Absolutely. I am so excited to be here with you. Oftentimes, my head can be so focused on women's mental health that I often just haven't taken the step back to really appreciate how men are really leaning in these days and having really important conversations. So my own background in wellness, I studied non-plant medicine, shamanism, Reiki, voice dialogue, and in my everyday world, I am a content producer and writer, and I'm also the founder of Kissing Lions Public Relations. And I am so happy to jump in. So I'm just going to read this first question, and if you feel compelled, just jump in. This is a roundtable. So what inner selves, in other words, what parts of your personality do you feel you've had to hide as a man for fear of disapproval or being shamed by society?
I could go first. So, I mean, this is a wonderful question, first of all, and thanks for, putting it out there, because it allowed me to really go deep within and reassess what are some of the selves that maybe in the past I've had the need to hide because of what society wants us to be, or wants man to be, so to speak. And so what I came up with is 4 selves. One is the entrepreneurial self of me. So I grew up in an entrepreneurial household. My dad was an entrepreneur, is an entrepreneur. And ever since I was young, I always aspired to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to be that. I did not see, getting a job as a way for me to really actualize my calling and purpose. But I think what Hollywood and what you see on television and what you see in Instagram and social media is a very one-sided face of entrepreneurship. People show the cars and the mansions and the success and the wins, but I feel what is not talked about enough is the obstacles, is the failures, is the challenges, is the stress, is the anxiety and depression. And I feel that that narrative makes an aspiring entrepreneur or somebody who wants to be an entrepreneur see just a one-sided perspective of this amazing hero's journey that a person, an entrepreneur, goes through. And I feel that if there are more discussions around the challenges, especially mental health challenges that entrepreneurs, male entrepreneurs go through, that's going to be so nourishing, right? So that is one. The second one is my sexual self, right? So as men, we go through a lot of challenges, especially when it comes to sexuality. Actually, a couple of years back, I had erectile dysfunction, ED. And at that point, I did not have anyone to speak with, because if you speak about it, you're seen as less masculine, so to speak, because your masculinity is defined as that one expression of self. And so I did not know what to do. I went to the doctor. After multiple weeks, I got an opportunity to meet him. And guess what he said? He gave me a Viagra pill and he patted me on the back. He said, that's the only solution. And I felt so disappointed. I said, is that all there is? And luckily, because of my podcast and because of my discussions, I knew that there's another way, that, sexual health is not just about popping a pill. It's about the emotions, it's about the thoughts, it's about your history. And there are so many things that you can do from yoga and especially tantra that can really improve and take your sexual health and your life to the next level. So then that's what I did. And I noticed amazing improvements, and thank God that I did not get hooked onto that Viagra pill that the doctor was giving me. And I feel that so many men, especially young men, they live their life in silence, in shame, in anger, frustration. And that leads to some of the toxicity, right? Because they don't know how to express themselves, how to express their sexuality that is within. So that's the second thing that I feel we can open to discussion. The third self is my lazy self. So as an entrepreneur, we are taught about go, your hustle culture, wake up at 4, sleep at 11:30. And sometimes I realize that there's a lazy self in me that just wants to go outdoors, be in the sunshine and rest for a while, maybe have an ice cream, look at people walking around, right? And I feel that sometimes that needs to come out, because when I'm lazy, I get to expand and use my imagination to bring in so many things that would not have been able to express through my productive do self. So that's the third thing, my lazy self. And fourth is my introverted self. Again, the other thing is, society, Instagram, Facebook, they encourage, or celebrate people who are always among 7 to 8 other people, with photos and selfies. You're trekking with somebody, going on, camping with a lot of people. And to me, I draw energy from groups and people around me, but at the same time, I'm very comfortable, just being myself. And sometimes I used to feel shame that what will people think? He's a lone guy, a lone wolf. He doesn't meet with people, or, is there some challenge? No, there's no challenge. I'm happy with my inner self. And I love to get to know the true nature of my essence. And so that's not a bad thing at all. And so there has to be no shame associated. So I would say these are the 4 selves that came to my mind: my entrepreneurial self, my sexual self, my lazy self, and my introverted self. So thanks, everybody, for listening.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thanks, AJ, for sharing. And I want to piggyback off that lone wolf, because one of the really my inner selves that I felt a lot of really struggle with a long time was this lone wolf mentality, really, also like this lone survivor. Like growing up, I struggled a lot with depression, with anxiety, with really shyness and loneliness. And I always thought I had to do it myself, right? I thought I was, growing up, the only person struggling with it, because I saw everybody else smiling out there, right? And out to the outside world, right? I was also smiling, right? I'd go to high school and stuff, and I'd be smiling, and everything would be good. And I'd go back home, and I'd just sit there and watch movies and eat junk food. And I'd try to drown out the world, thinking that everybody else was living these incredible lives, and I was the only one struggling. And so one of the things I realized was that really opening up and, you know, building communities was really the key for me to breaking out of that. And so that was really one thing, the sort of lone survivor self. And the other one was really just the perfectionist self, thinking that I had to be a certain person or I had to achieve certain things in order to allow myself to be happy. I thought I had to be, you know, a professional runner. And then finally I could, you know, allow myself to feel some joy or to have a good conversation or to just be happy in life. And the last one was really sort of this idea of fitting in. It's really the sort of, you know, fit in max, right? This idea that I had to, you know, sort of play it small, right? I couldn't show as much energy as I had. I had to quiet things down. I had to, you know, when I got shushed in office, I had to really be smaller than I wanted to play and than I wanted to live. And so those for me are the three big things where I just felt like I had to fit in.
Powerful. And what about you, Tyrone?
It's interesting to see how much overlap there seems to be between all of us, you know, because I've got my big man self, who I've never been small. I'm 6'4" and and a little over 300 pounds. And so as a big man, a big Black man, there has always been that expectation of sports. And so there's also my non-sport self, you know, my academic self, who could really care less about anything that involves a ball or a racket. And, you know, having to always feel like I'm apologizing for not liking or caring about any of that. You know, there's also my big Black self, where I have walked through worlds where I'm the only face. I'm the only face like me in the room, and having to try to play small, despite the fact that I'm 6'4", you know, and trying to shrink and not make waves and not draw attention to myself. So those are the kind of things that the selves that have shown up. And it seems like a lot of us deal with being big in some form or another, you know, not wanting to show up, not being allowed to. You know, those are some of my selves.
Yeah, this is great because there's a lot of pressure on males in societies to lead with certain selves. And in fact, one of the things that you didn't say, but it was implied between the three of you, is the things you have to hide. And whether you hide behind that smiling self, and then everyone expects that of you, or you're looking outward to see what self I should induct, like what you were saying, Tyrone, like, okay, the only one here like this, let me see what their comfort would be, and let me try to shift my shape to be that. And behind it all is playing it small, and then actually having a diagnosis of something. All of these are things where societally, I do think it seems like the traditional message for males is rougher. And I have to say, in my private practice, I'm getting many more males talking about themselves getting in touch with the parts that they didn't realize were patriarchal to traditional, not bad, but that they have this pressure. And I realized that women don't. They have their own pressures. And so I'm really glad. Thank you for being so honest about these things, including how wonderful things, like I think everyone here on this panel has entrepreneurial selves. But then the downside of that, and that if you just lead with the traditional entrepreneurial expectations, which is success, 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 and go, 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 you will deplete yourself. You will move into depression and anxiety. And if you're ashamed of those things, then the parts of you that are protecting you, but don't necessarily get you the help you need, will just say, you know, put on that happy face, or as Max said, you know, the smiling Max. And so once you're in touch with that, you can actually choose, like, for this person, I'm going to do the smiling Max, but, you know, after that, and AJ, I wasn't sure if you said lazy self or lady self, but either way, I liked both of them. Did you say lazy self?
Lazy.
But I heard lady, and I was imagining you in your lady self, I have to say, AJ. Right. So that's the other thing, is that it's what's allowed in, say, a lady self for men or a man self for ladies.
Mhm.
That's the other thing that really helps health happen, because each self is about permission to do something or to not do something, to be lazy, lazy bones. So thank you guys. I know we have a juicy question. Do you want to read the next one, Kashana?
Absolutely. And I was just going to say, just a quick check-in to really help those watching this. The motivation behind this, we might on a day-to-day basis have an experience where we worry about a man in our life, a father, an uncle, a friend, a colleague, maybe someone younger in our family, a nephew, a brother, or just a neighbor. And I think, to me, I was really excited to speak to you all today because, I recently discovered that sometimes men that are on their conscious journey may be so accustomed to taking care of everyone else that they don't realize when it's time to say, I am in a personal crisis. I need to stop everything right now. I'm in trouble. And it's not a forever trouble. So that's not what we're talking about. We're just talking about claiming that moment so that we can shift to take care of ourselves. And hopefully through this conversation, we'll learn a little bit more about you and how we can be open to supporting men's health as well if we are not male identifying people. So in any case, let's go ahead on to Q2 because this is getting good. So let's take a temperature on societal bias. What are the messages in our environment that hinder men's mental health?
Jump
Well,
in, anybody.
I think one of the biggest hindrances is that we are not allowed to ask for help. There's lots of just subtle messages that if you're asking for help, then there's something wrong, then you're weak. And men are supposed to be strong, and a strong person doesn't ask for any of the soft help, right? We are allowed to direct and say, I need you to do this, I need you to do that, but I need support is a whole different kind of thing.
I'd like to add to what Tyrone mentioned that, and to what Kashana also mentioned, sometimes men, it's assumed that we've figured it all, that we know it all, whether we're playing the role of a father or a son or a protector, leader, things like that. But the truth is sometimes we're in the midst of this huge storm or huge hurricane that nobody else knows about. And it's up to us to take that break or maybe reach out, to help. Like, I'll be honest, I'm in the midst of a challenge right now. Well, not a challenge, but a phase right now in my life where I lost my mother about 10 days back. And I've got my own ways of navigating through this, but I also see the need for a men's group that I'd facilitated earlier this year. And when men come together, sometimes they say men heal with men. And so when we have those groups like that, it provides an opportunity for men to express themselves, express their sadness, grief, challenge, difficulty, obstacles. And when we are able to release that, that's when true healing happens. So we don't need to have it all figured out.
Yeah, sorry for your loss, AJ, and really, I think it's a phenomenal way really to connect with other really men or other human beings, and that to me is also the big thing, right? You think that you're supposed to go through this alone, right? Just like most entrepreneurs out there, right? They think they have to sort of figure it all out on their own, right? And they want to charge forward and take care of their families and seem like these invincible people, right? They're like able also for their children. Oftentimes they're able to take care of everything. Right. And I think oftentimes once you peel back some of the layers and you look behind the mask, you see just how much like most men or most people are struggling sometimes throughout their lives in different areas. And I think the ability to open up, to connect with other people, really in that deep level and be able to actually say, hey, I'm struggling right now, right? Going to your friend and saying, hey, man, I'm having a really bad day, even if it's for like no other reason, right? Other than just you having a bad day. I think that like skill and that vulnerability really is so key to that.
Yeah, thank you. And I also, AJ, want to express my deep uh, love for what you're going through. And grief is another perfect example of what we're traditionally supposed to do, whether it's family traditions and societal traditions, and there's a way. And so I just also salute you, AJ, that you are in the process of this transition in the way that seems so personally and fulfillingly you. And I want to just say you're an example and a role model for me. And in terms of different selves, um, I really have learned from you that we don't necessarily lead with the selves we think we're going to lead when a death happens or a loss happens. And so even that, just the allowance of like, wow, this self that's coming out is surprising me in terms of a diagnosis or someone transitioning, and you allowing that to just be, that's healthy because it doesn't, it gives you shame or any of those other backlash consequences that themselves can lead to anxiety, depression, and physical ailments. And I also want to highlight what I heard here is role versus the fullness of yourselves that you bring to it. So like a role as a father or a coworker. And so we really say you can bring whatever selves you want to the different roles. And what we're talking about here, and I really want people to get that you can expand your vision of what selves you can bring to any role, and in so doing, inspire others. So thank you.
I love that. And, I just wanted to share some thought here about some things I hear. Now, I'm not a mother yet. I'd love to be one day, but maybe I'll be a mother in a way that, we don't know. But there's a part of my heart that when I see our men out there carrying the burdens and trying to tuck it in and being superheroes, and this applies to different generations in varied ways. Something that I hear sometimes is this sort of judgment. Oh, he's getting in his feelings. Oh, these emotions are sloppy. Can't he get it together? And, it makes me self-reflect. Do I have things that I need to reflect on when I'm seeing the different types of barriers that I may witness someone being in, or what is my barrier? So, with that said, I'm going to lean into the next question, but I just wanted to open that up because it may tie into things that we continue to discuss this round. So the question is, what have you had to do to carve space for your less popular inner selves? What's worked and what hasn't?
So for me, it was really about finding the right tribe of people. That to me was really a game changer. About 3 years ago, really, was when I met like the people that I now consider family, right? And for me, that gave me simply an opportunity to finally open up, right? And to share like, hey, I struggle with this and I struggle with that. And have these open, honest conversations where they're saying, right now I'm struggling with this area of my life, right? And then to be able to not just listen, but also support each other and hold each other accountable, right? And be like, hey, like last week you said you're gonna, take an hour to meditate. Did you actually do it, right? So having sort of this additional accountability and constant feedback in a group really of people, they're all, going through similar challenges or their own life challenges. That to me really opened up this space to express these inner selves that oftentimes I was hiding away from the world, because I felt like I could be vulnerable in that space.
Amazing, Max. I also really agree that there is enormous power in surrounding yourself with like-minded people, people that can hold you accountable, that can support you, especially if you're in this phase of life where maybe you don't have the answers. Maybe you need some feedback and encouragement. So totally agree with that. What I've found these days, especially because of the phase that I'm going through, is to really deepen my practice with pranayama or meditation and really go inward, but also go outward. So when I go inward, I mean is really understanding the true nature of reality, going past my external selves and getting in touch with my inner self and really connecting with my intuition and understanding what my or what my next step is going to be. And the other thing is being out in nature. Like just yesterday, my one self in the afternoon was telling me, you got to be productive. You got these things to do. You got these tasks. You got to complete it. You got to be responsible. You got to be the adult. You got to be the entrepreneur. But my other self said, you know what? You need a solar recharge. And that's what the term that myself used is a solar recharge. You got to be out in nature. You got to meet a friend. You just got to be in the park because there might be some message that might come through. And I really value that a lot these days. Because from what I'm learning, the universe is always trying to communicate with ourselves and ourselves. And sometimes we're too busy to notice what the universe is trying to tell us. And the quote that came to my mind also as I was going through this process is, sometimes you need to gift yourself the gift of doing nothing. Just going outdoors, just enjoying without any itinerary or a to-do list, and really absorbing the prana, the life force that the universe has to give us. So that's what is working for me so far.
I love this. One of the things that I have found is that as an African American, our culture doesn't tend to appreciate therapy. And one of the things that I had to do, one of my selves, my therapy going self had to do was frame it for my family, because family did not understand, well, what did we do wrong? Why are you going to therapy? And my framing for it was, I want to be happy and I need a coach for that. Serena Williams went on to win all kinds of awards because she had a coach. If you want to do something, then find somebody who knows how to do it. Why make it up yourself? And so I think that's one of the things myself had to do, was reframe the way to get what I wanted in a way that made it palatable to the people around me, so that they could get on board, so I could get that support. Once they got it, then there was more support for me to have it.
Tarun, I love this so much because I think this reframe is really powerful, because oftentimes all the real mental health and traditional model is really stigmatized, right? Because people directly think it has to do something with like really in a bad spot. But oftentimes it can simply be, hey, I'm living this normal, like average, okay life, and I want to be better, right? Just like Serena Williams, right? She started out and she wanted to be better, right? And maybe you know, for anyone listening, right? You want to be happier. Maybe you want to, bring up more of you. And I think oftentimes by changing that reframe towards like something positive, we're not running away from the pain anymore, but we're moving towards like a future that we actually want.
I love that. The future we actually want. And sometimes for some reason it gets halted. Like we have this idea and then the answer is no for however many reasons and for whatever reasons. And then therapy really can help you see this and then go, oh, and I also love the idea of how to reframe it so that your loved ones can get on board. That's an act of love. And that's also understanding the points of view of their inner selves. And it's not about friction. It's like, okay, I get they don't understand it. I'm not going to abandon myself. I am going to get the help I need, but how can I also get the support I need with them? And I just never really thought of it that way. But when we reframe something so that our family or our friend circle can understand it, we're really honoring the selves that they're leading with, because of course they're scared. That's usually why people's selves come up. They worry that they did do something or that it means you're going to leave them. A lot of people, they don't know it, but they're terrified when their loved one goes and gets therapy that they will be abandoning the family system. And so that's all, like, you're going to get whatever information you need and you're going to get healthy and you're going to leave me. And not only am I going to lose you, I'm going to be the cause of why you left. And that's all unconscious, but it's all there in this quagmire. And I just love that, Tyrone. And I know people here have done it in their different ways. Yes, if you really think about what their perception is, and then you help them come to yours in a loving way, that's you understanding their inner selves and then communicating in a way they can hear. And then I'll just speak for my family. Once one went, lots of others went. And we are so much healthier as a group. And we all grew up together. I have three sisters, and we long ago started to say, well, you know, in when I was 5, not making each other even have the same version, and understanding like, okay, that's not my memory when you were 5, but I don't doubt it. I have my own version. And this idea that we can keep our varying versions of our past and honor the different perspectives. I myself have grown because my sister went to therapy, for example, and because I went too. So thank you for that. But it's also ultimately often some type of fear of abandonment. And even though the acting out can be destructive, it's often love. Don't leave me. I love you.
Well, I love that, Bridget. And, that brings something else to mind. I am Black/African-American or BIPOC, if you will, depending on the conversation you're having. But, I found it is really not only the stigma, but for a lot of different cultures in the United States specifically, according to my own experience, it hasn't been safe. Or if it has been safe, it has been subconsciously communicated. It's for some people, but not for other people. And so, one of the things I feel I've observed is a real subconscious fear and vulnerability with, will I be cared for? Will I be taken seriously? Or does this person just want a new client, or are they really on my side? And so I love this conversation because I have a feeling a lot of our men who are really doing the work to become more vulnerable, to ask themselves more questions, to reach out to their brothers and the men in their lives that they need that man camp. Mm-hmm. It's so powerful. So, with that said,
I'm going to jump in and say one more thing that I forgot that you reminded me. This vulnerability. I think that's the new superpower. And again, men are not allowed the same access to vulnerability as women are traditionally. And vulnerability, when I went to write my book, I realized I used that word a lot. And then I realized, wait a minute, what am I actually saying? It's such a massive word. So I looked it up, and the root means to be open. And when I say vulnerability, it's the strength to be open. And most people look at it with a couple words after that, to be open to attack. And that's how most of us think. And if you're open to attack, we do need to protect. But thanks for bringing up the vulnerability, Kashana, because vulnerability is the new superpower. And if one can really feel it, embrace it, allow it in others as well as ourselves, it's really empowering. And it's about the root, to be open. And then whatever happens after that, that's a personal story that you can take back and say, I'm just moving into pure vulnerability, because I do think, maybe piggybacking a little bit on what AJ said, that's one of your avenues into your true essence. That is a massive avenue into whatever your original blueprint and things that you love as the human you came in being.